Hi, welcome. Chapter 1, Understanding Diversity. Let's go through the narration from the story collection of Poili Sengupta, The Lights Changed. I had meant it as a joke made up for a small ragged boy who sold newspapers at the Janpat crossing at the busy intersection. Every time I cycled past, he would run after me, holding out the English paper and screaming out the evening's headlines in a mixture of Hindi and English words. This time, I stopped by the pavement and asked for a Hindi paper. His mouth fell open. "You mean you know Hindi?" he asked. "Of course," I said as I paid for the paper. "Why? What did you think?" He paused. "But you look so English," he said. "You mean you can even read Hindi?" "Of course I can," I said, this time a little impatiently. "I can speak, read and write Hindi. Hindi is one of the subjects I study in school." "Subjects?" he asked. How could I explain what a subject was to someone who had never been to school? "Well, it's something," I began. But lights changed, and the honking behind me grew 100-fold, and I let myself pushed along with the rest of the traffic. The next day he was there again, smiling at me and holding out a Hindi paper. "Bhaiya," he said, "your newspaper. Now tell me, what is this subject?" The English word sounded strange on his tongue. It sounded like its other meaning in English, to be ruled by someone else. "Oh, it's just something to study," I said. And then, because the red light had come on, I asked him, "Have you ever been to school?" "Never," he answered. And he added proudly, "I began working when I was so high." He measured himself against my cycle seat. "First my mother used to come with me, but I can do it all alone." "Where's your mother now?" he asked. But then the lights changed and I was off. I heard him tell from somewhere behind me, "She's in mirror with—" The rest was drowned out. "My name is Samir," he said the next day, and very shyly he asked, "What's yours?" It was incredible. My bicycle wobbled. "My name is Samir too," I said. "What?" His eyes lit up. "Yes," I grinned at him. "It's another name for Hanuman's father, you know." "So now you are Samir 1 and I'm Samir 2, he said triumphantly. "Something like that," I answered, and then I held out my hand. "Handshake, Samir 2. His hand nestled in mine like a little bird. I could still feel its warmth as I cycled away. The next day he did not have his usual smile for me. "There's trouble in Meerut," he said. "Many people are being killed there in the riots." I looked at the headlines. "Communal riots," it blazed. "But Samir," I began. "I'm a Muslim, Samir," he said in answer. "And all my people are in Meerut." His eyes filled with tears, and when I touched his shoulder, he would not look up. He was not at the crossing the day after, neither the day after, nor ever again. And no newspaper in English or Hindi can tell me where my Samir 2 has gone. It's a narration from the story collection of Poili Sengupta, The Lights Changed. Let's examine this piece of narration a bit deeply. While Samir 1 is more familiar with English, Samir 2 speaks Hindi. But they still communicated with each other. They made the effort to do so because this was what was important to them. Samir 1 and Samir 2 also come from different religious and cultural backgrounds. While Samir 1 is a Hindu, Samir 2 is a Muslim. Different religious and cultural backgrounds such as these are an aspect of diversity. In addition to their diverse religious and cultural backgrounds, there are other ways in which Samir 1 and Samir 2 are different from each other. For example, while Samir 1 went to school, Samir 2 sells newspapers. Samir 2 did not have the opportunity to attend school. Often we see that there are several people around us who are poor and who do not have enough to eat or wear, and sometimes don't even have a place to live. It's not a difference, it's inequality. Inequality comes about when a person does not have the resources and opportunities that are available to other persons. Here, Sami too does not have the opportunity to attend school, but Sami one has. The caste system is another example of inequality. According to this, society was divided into different groups depending upon the work that people did, and they were supposed to remain in those groups. So, if your parents were potters, you could only become a potter, nothing else. This system was considered irreversible, incapable of changes, and because you were not supposed to change your profession, it was not considered necessary for you to know anything more than what you needed in your profession. This created a situation of inequality. You will read more about this and other inequalities in the following chapters. What does diversity add to our lives? You might have friends who are very different from you. You have probably eaten different kinds of food in their homes, celebrated different festivals with them, tried out the clothes they wear, and learned some of their languages as well. You probably like reading and hearing stories and adventures about different animals, people, and even ghosts. People who write such stories get their ideas from all sorts of different places, from books and real life and from their imagination. Imagine if all the storytellers and writers were forced to live in a place where all people wore the same two colors, red and white, ate the same food, maybe potatoes, took care of the same two animals, for example the deer and cat, and to entertain themselves played snakes and ladders. What kind of stories do you think they would write? Those stories will never have the wonder of diversity. Diversity in India. India is a country of many diversities. We speak different languages, have various types of food, celebrate different festivals, practice different religions. But actually, if you think about it, we do many things that are similar, but we do them in different ways. To understand better, there are different ways people of India do various things, different ways in which people pray, people get married, and people dress, different ways people greet each other, and different ways people prepare meals. So, see, we do things that are similar but do them in different ways. How do we explain diversity? A little more than 200 years ago, or long before the train, airplane, bus, or car became a part of our lives, people traveled from one part of the world to another in ships, on horses, on camels, or on foot. Often, they went in search of new lands or new places to settle in, or in search for people to trade with. Many others left their homes because there were famines and drought and they could not get enough to eat. Some went in search of work while others left because there was a war. As it took so long to travel, once they got to a place, people stayed there, often for a long time. Sometimes, as they began to make their homes in new places, people brought some changes to their lifestyle. And at other times, they managed to do things in the old ways. So, their languages, food, music, religions became a mix of the old and the new. And out of this intermixing of cultures came something new and different. The history of many places shows us influence of how many different cultures have helped to shape life and culture there. Thus, each region became very diverse because of their unique histories. Similarly, diversity also comes about when people adapt their lives to the geographical area in which they live. For example, Living near the sea is quite different from living in a mountainous area. Not only do people have different clothing and eating habits, but even the kinds of work they do are different. Let us try to understand what we mean when we say that historical and geographical factors influence the diversity of a region. We can do this by understanding about life in two different parts of our country, Kerala and Ladakh. Ladakh is a desert in the mountains in the eastern part of Jammu and Kashmir. This region does not receive any rain and is covered in snow for a large part of the year. So very little agriculture is possible here. There are very few trees that can grow in this region. For drinking water, people depend on the melting snow during the summer months. People here keep sheep and goats. The goats in this region are special because they produce pashmina wool. This wool is prized and pashmina shawls cost a lot of money. The people in Ladakh carefully collect the wool of the goats and sell this to traders from Kashmir. Pashmina shawls are chiefly woven in Kashmir. Here you can see women weaving the pashmina shawl, and here is a collection of pashmina shawls. The people here eat meat and milk products like cheese and butter. Each family owns some goats, cows and sows. Sows is yak cows. Here you can see picture of a pair of sows ploughing the field. Being a desert does not mean that Ladakh did not attract any traders. It was considered a good trade route to what is today called Tibet. The caravans traveling through these passes carried textiles, spices, raw silk and carpets. Buddhism reached Tibet via Ladakh. Do you know, Ladakh is also called Little Tibet. Here you can see one of the monasteries in Ladakh. Islam was introduced in this region more than 400 years ago, and there is a significant Muslim population here. Ladakh has a very rich oral tradition of songs and poems. Local versions of the Tibetan national epic, the Kesa Saga, are performed and sung by both Muslims and Buddhists. Coming to Kerala, Kerala is a state in the southwest corner of India. It's surrounded by the sea on one side and hill on the other. A number of spices like pepper, cloves and cardamoms are grown on the hills. It is spices that made this region an attractive place for traders. Jewish and Arab traders were the first to come here. The Apostle of Christ, St. Thomas, believed to have come here nearly 2000 years ago, and he is credited with bringing Christianity to India. Many Arab traders also came and settled down here. Ibn Battuta, who travelled here a little less than 700 years ago, wrote a travelogue in which he describes the lives of Muslims. He says that they were a highly respected community. The Portuguese discovered the sea route to India from Europe when Vasco da Gama landed with his ship here. Because of all these various historical influences, people in Kerala practice different religions such as Judaism, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism and Buddhism. The fishing nets used here look exactly like the Chinese fishing nets and are called Cheenavala. Here is the fishing net used in Kerala, which is called Cheenavala. Even the utensil used for frying is called cheenachatte. It's believed that the word cheen could have come from China. The fertile land and climate are suited to growing rice, and a majority of people here eat rice, fish and vegetables. It's the boat race, very important part of Onam festival celebrated in Kerala. See, while Kerala and Ladakh are quite different in terms of their geographical features, the history of both regions has seen similar cultural influences. Both regions were influenced by Chinese and Arab traders. It was the geography of Kerala which allowed the cultivation of spices, and the special geographical location of Ladakh and its wool that drew traders to these two regions. See, the history and geography are often tied in the cultural life of a region. The influence of diverse cultures is not just a thing of the past. Our present lives are also all about moving from place to place, often for work. And with each move, our cultural traditions and way of life slowly become part of the new place we are in. Similarly, in our own neighborhoods, we live close to people from several communities. In our daily lives, we do things together and hear stories about each other's lives, customs, and traditions. Unity in diversity. India's diversity has always been recognized as a source of its strength. When the British ruled India, women and men from different cultural, religious, and regional backgrounds came together to oppose them. India's freedom movements had thousands of people of different backgrounds in it. They worked together to decide joint actions, they went to jail together, and they found different ways to oppose the British. Interestingly, the British thought they could divide Indians because Indians were so different and then continued to rule them. This was known as divide and rule policy of the British. But the people showed how they could be different and yet be united in their battle against the British. Here you can see the poem, Don't Forget the Days of Blood. This was sung after the Jallianwala Bagh massacre in Amritsar, Punjab on 13th April 1919. The British General Dyer opened fire on a large group of unarmed, peaceful people, killing many and wounding even more. Men and women, Hindus, Sikhs, and Muslims, rich and poor, all had gathered to protest against the British. This song was composed and sung to honor the memory of those brave people. Let's just read through it. Don't forget the days of blood, friend. In the midst of your happiness, remember to shed a tear for us. The hunter has torn away every single flower. Do plant a flower in the desert garden, dear friend. Having fallen to bullets, we slept in Jallianwala Bagh. Do light a lamp on this lonely grave, O friend. The blood of Hindus and Muslims flows together today. Do soak your robe in the river of blood, dear friend. Some rot in jails while others lie in their graves. Do shed a little tears for them, O friend. Songs and symbols that emerged during the freedom struggle serve as the constant reminder of our country's rich tradition of respect for diversity. Do you know, the Indian flag was used as a symbol of protest against the British by people everywhere. In his book, The Discovery of India, Jawaharlal Nehru says that Indian unity is not something imposed from the outside, but rather it was something deeper, and within its fold, the widest tolerance of belief and custom was practiced, and every variety acknowledged and even encouraged. Here's a picture of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru delivering an Independence Day speech. Here you can see Nehru standing and giving the speech. It was Nehru who coined the phrase unity in diversity to describe the country. India's national anthem, Jana Gana Mana, composed by Rabindranath Tagore, is another expression of unity of India. We might be different in many ways. Come on friends, let's be proud of our diversity. Let's proclaim our diversity and let us celebrate our diversity. Thanks for watching and learning. Thank you.